Welcome back to a special Thanksgiving weekend of the Comics Aficionados, your favorite comic book centric podcast, right here on Thinking Critical YouTube. I got a wonderful panel here for you today. We're going to talk about some of the big topics of the week. We're going to talk about the Disney 616 program, essentially mocking Dan Slott and Tom Brevoort, making them look like fools. Was it a parody? Was it meant to be serious? We'll get into that. We'll also talk about the importance of Marvel canceling 12 comic book titles. We'll get into anticipation for King in Black. Are we excited about it? We'll also talk about the newest DC Black Label series that launched this week, John Ridley's The Other History of the DC Universe. We'll also talk about a recent tweet from Tom King promising sex in Batman Catwoman #1. And we're also going to talk about the return of one of my favorite comic books, The Super Sons. And like I mentioned already, we do have a wonderful panel here today. We got the man behind Rags. He's basically the HMFIC. He is you're the writer. You basically run all the stuff behind the scenes. What's up, Ryan Ball?
Hey, how's everybody doing? Thanks for having me on, Wes. I'm doing great.
What is up, Daquan?
Not much. We are working diligently to get our second IP out there. And when it launches, I hope everybody likes it. It's going to be fun.
Well, when you're ready to launch it, let me know, and we'll definitely have you on the channel so you can promote it out to the viewers.
Will do, sir. Will do.
Can't wait to talk about that. Also with us is a longtime collaborator. Haven't seen him here on the channel in a while. I know you've been busy with some other stuff behind the scenes, but Larry from Larry's Comics has made some time for us and for the viewers. How you doing, Larry?
Guys, thanks for having me on the show. I'm excited to be on. A lot of great subjects. Let's roll.
Yep, and Larry's got the 411 about all this sex talk, but you'll have to wait to the second hour. The first hour is going to be Marvel. The second hour is going to be DC Comics. Also with us is their curmudgeon of critical, the saltiest man in the world. If you enjoy this, the worst of the week that Pele and myself do, on Monday we will be doing an all Bendis edition, Legion of Superheroes Action Comics. Pele, how you doing?
Yeah, the bait and switch on the BatCat sec. Oh, come on, that's a shit.
Shush, we're waiting for an hour.
Yeah,
I was expecting some ass. Oh,
well,
yeah. Okay.
Well, you'll have to wait for the second hour to get into that part. Also with me is the co-host. Last night we did This Week in X-Men. Tomorrow there's going to be another edition of This Week in X-Men as we wrapped up Ten of Swords. Hope everyone enjoyed that.
Hour.
We should. Hey Doc, how you doing?
I'm all right, man. Glad we're finally done with the
Jesus
X of Swords nonsense.
Absolutely, it's time to get into some real business. Now, Disney Plus was coming out with some new shows. One of them was 616, which is a docu series that was going to show behind the scenes about how Marvel Comics, how the sausage is made. And specifically, there was an episode that was supposed to talk about the Marvel method, the method that Stan Lee created and perfected. Who is making all that noise? Is that you, Doc?
God almighty, what the hell?
Not me. I'm just sitting here quietly.
Is that Larry?
Somebody's shoving the microphone in their butt.
Wasn't me. I was muted.
How do I do the
Larry?
mute?
I got you, Larry. I got you. Oh, you got it. So, what episode was supposed to be on the Marvel method? They chose Dan Slott's Iron Man 2020 event, and it was basically his interaction with Tom Brevoort. And I don't know. I guess they decided to kind of make them look like buffoons, essentially parodying the fact that Dan Slott can't write comics without being distracted by tweets. That when he has a deadline, he almost never makes it. Whenever he has a project to write, they have to bring in co-writers to help him finish it off. I don't know, Doc. What do you think about that Marvel 616 episode? Do you take it all that seriously, or are you kind of like in my boat where I think that was meant to be it was supposed to be friendly, but they didn't. I don't think they gave the audience correctly.
It was supposed to be. They aimed for charming buffoon, and missed by a fucking mile. Dan. They took a lot of things that are accurate about Dan in the fact that the man can't write more than one comic a month. He never has been for his entire career. And they decided to make a joke about it, except for the fact that if this is the foot you're putting forward to non-comic readers, the Disney audience that aren't necessarily the Marvel audience, maybe like the Marvel movie audience, but not the Marvel comics audience, you end up looking like it ended up looking like absolute fucking buffoonery.
Absolutely. Like I said in my video about it, it felt like an office-style parody of Marvel offices, and like how basically it was completely dysfunctional. And I don't know why. I don't know what they were thinking, but Brian, did you see it? What did you think about the controversy regarding that? Was it much ado about nothing, or did it kind of confirm maybe some of your suspicions?
It kind of confirmed a lot of my suspicions of how things happen over there at Marvel. To me, it looked like Tom Brevoort, as an editor, had absolutely no command and control over any of his writers, right? You saw that poor letterer just sitting there like, it's the day before the book is due, and I don't have a script. Someone please help me. And that is like the absolute worst position you ever want to be in. I can at least say for Rags, we had those scripts done and complete a year out. So all we had to do was just hand them to Luigi to draw. But that just looked like Dan Slott, among his little team, was the weakest link. And having to bring in a second writer to go in and write your book, that's insult. Why even have Dan Slott around? You could just hire the other guy who's probably cheaper and can probably meet the deadlines.
Hey, and he's also the writer behind the first season of Daredevil. He's probably a better contemporary writer anyway. Christoph Gage is actually pretty good.
Right.
Yeah.
So
he's a guy that has a lot of television experience, a lot of comics experience. I remember interacting with him when he got his first comic gig back on the old Wildstorm message boards, whenever DC still had message boards. He was coming on there because he was going to be doing a Stormwatch post-human division, that book. And he was like, okay, well, I want to make sure I don't piss all the Wildstorm people off. He actually went out of his way to not piss them off. And, so Chris Gage is a very solid dude. And I wish nothing but the best for him. But no, just hire him.
Right.
Stop hiring Slott.
I felt very sorry for him because it's like he just got handed this giant dinosaur turd to polish, and all he had was a wet nap.
About right. like that giant pile of
from Jurassic Park.
Triceratops feces from Jurassic Park, and he needs to make it look like a Triceratops.
Yeah,
right.
That's apt description of Dan Slott is a big, massive pile of feces. Yes. So,
So I want to hear from Larry. I know you were having some background noise. Are you good to go now, Larry? Nope, he's still muted. Hopefully he'll be able to come back in here and talk about this one. But if you like Christos Gage and you haven't read his Ninja K-Run on Valiant, it was absolutely amazing. But I don't know, Brian, as a young up-and-coming writer, you hear stories about the big two, how you're not ever going to get opportunities. It's like as a good old boy network, it's hard to get opportunities. Does this also confirm that to you, that the reason that there's no new blood in there is because Tom Brevoort won't fire his incompetent friend that he's known for 25 years?
Yeah, it actually just cements the fact that it's not what you do, it's who you know.
Yeah.
Yep. So, if I never get a job at Marvel, then that's absolutely fine. Because there's always going to be a Dan Slott or a Bendis, and you don't want to compete with incompetence, because incompetence will always win.
Yeah.
Idiots.
Go ahead.
Idiots drag you down to their level and then beat you with experience.
Mm-hmm.
That's about the best way to put it. Dan Slott is, there's not a bigger idiot at Marvel. So, well, I will.
There's
Tom Brevoort. There's Tom Brevoort.
Yeah,
because he won't let the guy go. And it's
Al Ewing. He's the one in charge.
Al Ewing.
He's the one that put up with it.
But yeah, they'll beat you with experience every single fucking time.
So Pele, you're a retailer. How far did this get into the purview of comic book readers? Were your customers talking about this, or was this just something people online know about?
I think this is just a social media thing. Most of the customers don't care, and if anybody did make mention of it, it's just to laugh up their sleeve at the stupid comic pros again. It's just Marvel has become a laughing stock, and they have been for a while. They just continue spiraling down, spiraling the drain right now. It's just more fuel to the fire that, incompetent morons that run Marvel are just running it into the ground. So,
I mean, it's personally, I like watching them make gigantic asses of themselves because there's always, I mean, yes, come on. We know that Marvel Comics division is basically looked at like the redheaded stepchild of Disney.
True.
But the fact is that Kevin Feige is now in charge of Marvel Comics. So if they keep putting shit like this out, Feige will consider it an embarrassment to himself, and maybe he'll go in and actually clean house. Because they're embarrassing him at that point.
Well, we've kind of been waiting for the fallout from Kevin Feige. I think, obviously we've seen, I think, what is it? Disney has fired 32,000 employees now.
Yeah.
They've hit the parks, they've hit ESPN, they've hit the movie divisions. We're kind of waiting for it to trickle down to Marvel Comics. Obviously, they did lose their publisher, John Nee. But I don't know. Doc, I almost can't see a way that maybe they can't bring Dan Slott back now after he's kind of embarrassed the entire company with his own incompetence, right?
They'll keep bringing it back. Honestly, you know what? As long as you have people like Stephen Wacker and Tom Brevoort involved in that company and making hiring and firing decisions, and as long as you have Dan Slott out there constantly screaming at and blocking 15,000 fans, 15,000 customers, 20,000 customers, 50,000 customers at a clip, as far as they're concerned, as far as that editorial department is concerned, that's a good thing. I don't know why. It doesn't make any goddamn sense.
Well, it's 15,000 customers that can't see what a moron he is on Twitter, too, so...
Well, yeah, that's also good. I mean, honestly, they would probably prefer that he block everybody and then go private. But at least then he could just scream into the void. But no, they honestly, for some reason, they consider that a good thing. I don't know why. It doesn't make sense. But, I mean, other than the fact that their potential customers now can no longer see him acting like an asshat. But honestly, they'll probably end up putting him on another fucking episode. On how he, missed 3 or 4 deadlines for Fantastic Four.
Well, and they just ruined the Franklin Richards character and changed his origin and pissed everybody off, and then handled that very inappropriately. Obviously, we talked about that last week.
Yeah. So they'll consider that a victory somehow. Somehow that's a good thing. We live in an upside down world anymore where bad is good and good is bad. So I have no fucking clue.
All publicity is good publicity.
I think that there's actually creators at Marvel that intentionally are trying to destroy the brand, or intentionally trying to destroy specific characters, or trying to destroy, parts of the brand permanently. I think there's just some degree of malice involved at this point. Nobody is this incompetent for that long.
I don't think that it's malice. I just think it's, he's just bored with what he's doing. So he's just kind of testing the waters, like, how far can I push this until they do actually let me go do something else?
Distinctly possible. Slott has kind of come to the point where he has a very unearned sense of self-importance. He thinks that he's on A-list books not because the A, B, C, and D-list creators quit, but because he's actually A-list. No, he's just there because there's no one else because all the A, B, and C list creators quit. So he has a very unearned sense of self-importance. So whenever he does finally get let go, I mean, honestly, if I don't give a shit about my job, I'd probably do the same thing. But he
But he
probably
did have the
thinks
longest run in Spider-Man history, right?
Actually, honestly, I don't consider it the longest run because he was there for the longest, but for like the first 5 of those years that he was on that book, he was also alternating with people like Dan Jurgens, Paul Jenkins, Christos Gage, and a bunch of other whenever they were doing Spider-Man 3 times a week or 3 times a month.
Yeah, it's true.
So he was there for 10 years, but he wasn't the only. If you actually add up the total number of ASM issues that he did, I don't know whether or not he beats somebody like David Michelini.
And now with this new reveal, who are we sure that it was even Slott that was writing them?
Well, he claims that he will always, credit ghostwriters if he brings in a co-writer. Now, whether or not I believe him, I don't know.
It could be the intern. It could be like intern X. Writing it at this point. Wouldn't be able to really tell the difference.
Larry, are you back and good?
How do I sound, guys? My phone sounds terrible, and I apologize.
Oh no, you're fine now.
Awesome.
That's much better.
Awesome. Well, my first question that I didn't get to answer. All right. Marvel seems to never want to promote the creators because it'll build their brand, and they could, it raises their price and they leave, like the Image guys. But now all of a sudden they seem with the 616, they want to promote the creators, and it's these middle-aged weirdo boobs. And they tried to do a tongue-in-cheek thing with the 616 thing with Dan Slott and Tom Brevoort. And just their appearances just made it so gross and sketchy, and it just everything they said that was a joke just seemed like they were saying it as factual. That was a massive backfire. Guys like that, they should be promoting the Spider-Man brand, and they should keep Danny Slott in a tiny little closet and never show him to the public. My opinion.
But closets are for clothes. Beautiful clothes.
That was meant to be like. I think that video was something you would show to your friends. I don't know what they were thinking in broadcasting it out to everybody, but it's clear that all those things are true, or that we wouldn't be making fun of him for it, right?
Yeah, I think they may have been exaggerating things that were truth to make him seem adorable and endearing, the bumbling idiot. But I mean, with his appearance, and couple that with Tom Brevoort, who just looked like just a weasel. I mean, it didn't make anybody want to read a Marvel comic book.
It actually made Brevoort look spineless as an editor.
Wizard in the 90s made creators look like rock stars, and you wanted to get to a show and you wanted to get their autographs. The internet hasn't done anything helpful for comic books, in my opinion. It's giving them platform to lash out at fans and to just get to know the awful side of creators. I think companies really have to focus on social media policies and fine tuning those things before they hire contractors, employees, whatever, because it hasn't been a great outreach tool for a lot of companies. Mm-hmm. If you don't like my politics, don't buy my books.
Okay,
that's perfectly fine with me. I mean, just they don't want to. It's fine. I don't care if somebody has different politics. I don't care what they think. You can think anything they want to think.
Exactly.
It's just the problem is they don't like the way you think, and they'll tell you about it. They'll call you every name in the book. They will absolutely try to annihilate you online, and then they'll block you. And it's like, come on, just a little professionalism goes a long way. They've never shown any of it. So.
None.
But by the way, I just looked through it. Slott didn't become the sole ASM writer until Volume 3, Number 1. Now, you can add Superior Spider-Man that came before that. But 3 issues before Spider-Man 700, where they canceled it, was some dude named let's see, Mark Waid had a couple of issues. Yeah, so he had about 10 issues before ASM 700. Then he did Superior Spider-Man, and then he did Spider-Man 700 through 800, 801. So he had maybe 120 total issues, 150 if you count Superior.
That's pretty damn good. It's like 6 years.
Yeah, but still, I'm pretty sure that David Michelini was probably on just as long, if not longer.
Mm-hmm. So, Larry, I know that you're in all the social media, channels for retailers and stuff like this. Is this something that you guys were all talking about? Did it confirm all your suspicions as well? It certainly seemed like it did the customers.
I think
creators.
the general consensus in the media, in the retailer forums, has been that this was a tongue-in-cheek, art direction that backfired on them. They didn't. I don't think that this was created to torpedo Dan Slott's career. I think that it was an art direction choice that they took, and it backfired. I mean, the tongue-in-cheek, haha concept really didn't come off on this. It kind of they filmed it kind of straight, and fans took it literal. Also, you have to consider where they're delivering this to. This is to the 616. I assume this is for normies. This is for mostly non-comic book readers. It's really hard to get non-comic book readers it's an uphill battle to get them to care about a writer. Those guys care about the character, Spider-Man, and they respond to artwork. To have a feature piece on a writer, I mean, it just eyes glaze over. And but what they were trying to accomplish with it really didn't come off. It was
supposed
awful.
to be about the Marvel method. Doc, obviously the Marvel method is something that Stan Lee invented because his plate was so full, he needed to get a lot of different titles. Do you find it shocking that Dan Slott can't manage a Marvel method comic book?
I think it's kind of amusing, considering that Stan created the Marvel method because he was writing like 6 or 8 books a month. Chris Claremont wrote 2 or 3 books a month, but he was writing full scripts. Other writers, Bendis writes full scripts. Even back during his Marvel days when he was doing 6 or 7 books a month, he was writing full scripts, but he didn't have all the editorial requirements, laid on him that Stan did. Dan Slott writes 1 book a month, doesn't even really use the Marvel
2
method.
books. He was doing Iron Man 2020.
Yeah.
He was also doing Fantastic Four and likely preparing for Empire. Yeah.
So he was doing 2 books a month and doesn't make use of the actual Marvel method that's there. Talks about it, kind of claims he's using it, yet at the same time needs to bring in a dialoguer.
Which, if I can just chime in here for like 1 second, dialogue is 50% of your book.
Yeah. So you're doing half the job. So
you're only doing half the job.
Yeah.
It was frustrating to figure that out.
I think it's just funny. He doesn't even just think about that. He has to bring in somebody to do the dialogue. He doesn't know how people actually speak to each other.
No, because he doesn't have friends. And he doesn't.
That's what's so amazing about this.
Because
I know
he doesn't know how people speak in terms of talking to each other. It's hilarious.
Well, let's talk about this. Sorry.
I know there's a couple of other big 2 creators I know of that have people come in and do their dialogue, but they're never accredited as co-writers.
That doesn't surprise me. There was going back. This is going back 20 years, but Mark Millar, when he was on The Flash, way back in the late 90s, before he ended up over at Wildstorm on the Authority, there was a lot of talk that his Flash run was essentially ghost written by Grant Morrison.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether or not there's any truth to that, but it's a rumor that's persisted for 20 years. And then
was it really, really, really weird, but not completely dark? Because then it might have been Grant Morrison.
I mean, I don't remember. I barely I was never a huge Flash fan. I just know that the rumor was out there, and then he used his success on that to get the job to take over for Warren Ellis on The Authority. So yeah, and if that is true, then Grant was never credited for the Flash work.
But he was paid.
Oh, I bet Mark cut him half his check. But still, that is something that is common in comics for things to get ghost written and uncredited. But at the same time, it's often whenever a guy is taking on an absurd number of, assignments and just can't meet their deadlines. They're hiring somebody kind of to, hey man, I can't finish this one. Can you just write this for me? And I'll pay you for it. I'll give you my check for this one. I
don't see him ever doing something like that. Not his check. I mean, he might give him like $20 out of his pocket. But
well, yeah, because
we're talking about
Dan
these people.
Slott.
I mean,
well,
these people are destitute.
Yeah,
apparently,
well,
right?
Dan Slott. It's one thing whenever you're getting 7 checks for scripts in a month plus residuals. It's another when you're getting 2.
It was my understanding that Dan Slott had a protege, on all his books. He had a co-writer. Somebody was working with him, for Christos Gage was working with him. That was Christos's Gage entry point into the medium was by working with Dan Slott. And I don't know if that was a paid position, but that's how he started out.
That would have been 20 years ago.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he pays them now at some point, but
well, no, because we were talking about it before. Christos Gage's first work was at Wildstorm after he transitioned from being a writer on Law and Order SVU.
But he obviously wanted to gain entry into the Marvel universe, and that was his entry point, was by being, Dan Slott's
okay.
protege.
You mean whenever he came over to Marvel from Wildstorm DC? Well, he was one of the co-writers with Slott and Guggenheim and Wade and Jenkins and Jurgens on ASM when it went to 3 times a month.
I'd set up at a show in Manchester, New Hampshire with Christos Gage, and he talking with him, he had told me that he was Dan Slott's assistant. So I just assumed that he worked behind the scenes with him doing books.
Like the assistant that comes in and finishes up some pages while the main artist is doing layouts and stuff.
Right. Like, the way Trent and I work our scripts is Trent will write the scenes and I will most definitely handle more of like the military dialogue and clear up like the commas, the periods and things like that. But it's still like a team effort. It's not like he's just writing half a script and I'm just taking the other half and finishing it for him. We're working together to make the thing happen at the same time. Dan Slott, after watching that 616 mockumentary, if you will, just seems to just write whatever he wants to write, and then when he feels like turning it in, he'll turn it in, and then everyone else has to guess what exactly it is that he's doing. It's really scary to see this from, I guess, like a team standpoint, from the way I run, the way we run, Rags from start to finish versus the way the big two run their stuff from start to finish. It just surprises me that we are infinitely more organized and we're drunk and passed out half the time.
I think you nailed it right there. That's what they did. They started off to do a mockumentary and people are taking it literally. I don't know how much of it's true. The only thing that's true is Dan's a boob.
Speaking of being drunk, I remember this was from a conversation that I'd seen that back in the 70s, 80s, actually it would have been 80s and 90s, I guess. John Romita Jr. was talking about how he'd get art students to come in. He's doing so much work, just getting pounded with so much work, that he was getting art students to come in and ink his pages. And he was paying them in beer and cigarettes. And that they would...
Was that senior or junior?
I think it was senior, actually. I think it was senior. I was thinking it was junior, but no, it was the 70s, because I'm thinking now back, it was pretty grainy. It was bad.
Well,
but
Christos Gage was paying Slott and Twinkies to let him help.
That wouldn't surprise me.
When
but
I
do remember,
worked at my mom's restaurant as like a 15-year-old, I got paid in smokes.
Yeah, but I remember John Romita talking about, oh yeah, I used to pay the art students down at the art school, beer and cigarettes, and we'd get so hammered, we couldn't actually finish the pages. That's why you had some of these. That's why you had some issues of, Spider-Man and stuff like that, where the inks weren't quite right. But they didn't have time to go back and go over them again, so they just submitted them. But yeah, that's pretty funny.
I think he's hiring homeless people to work on his latest action.
That's Junior. Oh God, that's
all right.
bad.
We'll talk about that on Monday. Hey Doc, BatCat is saying that the trade is selected as Grant Morrison. And
okay,
and Mark
so
Millar.
maybe they finally. Now, does that? Because I think there were.
Hey,
Grant.
This is a Marvel video right now.
I don't
BatCat gave you your answer. We're going on to the next subject.
Cool.
All right. So also this week, Marvel canceled 12 titles. I think a lot of them we knew were going to be canceled. Obviously, 2020 Iron Man 2020 already happened. That was going to be canceled. The Dawn of X Saga comic that was supposed to get people ready for Ten of Swords. Obviously, that wasn't going to be happening because the event's wrapping up now. But there were some bigger titles on there. I guess Jane Foster Valkyrie, that kind of spun out of War of the Realms. Jason Aaron was on it. Morbius, which is supposed to kind of coincide with the movie that should have been out by now, was on there. I don't know, Larry, it felt like there was a big deal made about that, but I think most of those titles we kind of expected to be canceled.
Here's the thing. We can't have it both ways. I mean, last year I had said there's too much crap, there's too much filler on the shelves, there's too many unnecessary titles, and now publishers have gone lean and mean, and they've cut down a lot of the crap. I think that's what we need right now. We need just best foot forward, all the good stuff. Yep, get mercy killing, get rid of all that crap. I mean, Jane Foster, Thor. I mean, really?
Valkyrie was terrible.
This is a good thing. Get rid of all the white noise on the shelf and just everybody focus and put your best foot forward and Sunday punch all the good titles.
Yeah,
that's what I like.
Daily Bugle.
Yeah. Give me a break.
You're not wrong. I think you could probably really start raising the sales numbers on your core titles if you eliminate a lot of the ancillary crap that is basically taking their attention away.
Let's call this the less is more era.
Yes. And
they need to improve the quality on their core. I mean, just get it up to a level to where they can be proud of it again, because the resources going into the ancillary stuff has to be dragging them down. It's just such crap. It's such garbage. At this point, it's just cutting out. It's cutting the fat. Then they've needed to do this for a very long time.
Well, they also have to fight their nature. Marvel's nature is if they have one minor success, they will split it off into as many shitty titles and pound it through the system as they can. They do it every single time. Conan #1 has a moderate success, and they splinter it off into 5 unsellable titles, and just across the board, they just have to fight their nature, just raise the core level up there, and just.
And at that point, if you
want that.
Yeah, and if you get 3 or 4 or 5 years where the numbers keep going up and up and up on your core titles, then you can start considering splintering and doing a spin-off title of one.
Well, actually, listen to fan reaction too, and see what people like. Actually, pay attention to what is garnering you acclaim. See what people like and respond to the people. They don't.
The problem is the only people they listen and respond to are the Twitterverse people, and those aren't real fans. Those are not real people. You know, Twitter is not real life, but they
Are you kidding me?
so many corporations
and it's
believe
not.
it is.
Shit.
It's
Hey,
also
that's a
not
Dan
custom.
Slott take. Are you calling them Pixels Pele?
They're not real people. It's not real life. You know, it is reactionary, you know, just cesspool of shit. You know, it's not the actual fans. 99% of the actual fans aren't on Twitter. They don't care about Twitter. So they're making all their reactions and they're writing all their books to appease the tiniest sliver of their fan base at the expense of everyone else.
So, Larry, I do want to talk about it. It felt like there was a big deal being made out of these 12 cancellations, as if like Marvel was canceling 12 titles that they were releasing at the moment. And these were all titles that had been solicited like in 2019 or maybe early 2020. But because of the pandemic, everything got shut down and they just never came back. And I think they just finally got back to just officially canceling
Who is
them.
making a big deal of this? Are you talking about Bleeding Cool trying to create a story out of nothing? I mean, Marvel is getting rid
other
of
YouTubers were saying, you know, it's confirmation that Marvel's dead or dying.
Well, YouTubers are in the constant struggle for, you know, content. And, you know, people will, you know, there's YouTubers who will take a concept that Marvel and DC are dying and just beat that fucking horse into the ground and create content even if no content is there. Marvel is, you know, less is more. DC's getting rid of, you know, the unnecessary titles and trying to build up their core. Marvel's trying to build up their core. I mean, I'll give them credit for trying to do something because last year I was in the position of saying that, you know, there's too much shit on the shelves. They're weeding the shit.
Yeah,
I think it's good.
I'm sitting here reading the snowflakes and they're talking about how, Marvel's slashing all of the progressive they're the ones that don't sell. They're not slashing the ones that don't sell.
They're mostly slashing things that haven't even come out. I mean, I'm just laughing at the fact that this is like 12 Aubrey Sitterson Scarlet Strike Force books.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're pointless books. I mean, let's look, for instance, The Union. The Union is the most irrelevant book by virtue of the fact that it's already been promoted 3 times to be part of a different event, and they haven't changed a single aspect of it.
The Union is a result of Marvel having success with House of X, Powers of X, and then them immediately firing up the machine and splintering that off into 24 unsellable titles. That's all it's a result of. The Union is arriving DOA. I'm already making up tiny little toe tags for its death. It's not going to make it.
Well, it's not coming out. It was one of the books. It was one of the 12.
No, it's coming out on Wednesday, Doc.
It comes out tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. Because this book was supposed to be part of Dawn of X. It was supposed to be a spin-off of Excalibur. Then it was supposed to be and part of X of Swords. It was supposed to spin out of X of Swords.
That was a great sword fight, by the way.
Then it was supposed to be a tie-in to Empire. Now it's a tie-in to King in Black. They haven't changed the fucking art. It's not like it's not like they remade the book. They didn't they didn't have like a concept that they had already come up with, and then they made a book, but then they canceled it, and then they made another one because they still liked the concept, tried to fit it. No, they just are printing the same fucking book that they printed, except for now they're slapping a King in Black label on it. So
like Atlantis Attacks, that's even later. I think the final part of Atlantis Attacks is also a King in Black crossover. Give me a fucking break.
But it's got to be the last panel is Null coming, right? That's the tie-in.
The last panel is Jordan White puts down his ukulele, gets his sausage fingers around a Sharpie, and he colors the last panel in as a black block.
All black.
That's the crossover.
It's like I keep pointing back to the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossovers, where the only damn difference was that the sky was a different color, and that's how they. I'm not kidding. That's how they actually figured it out, because they're like, we had all these stories that we had all these stories that we needed to use, and we needed more Crisis of Infinite Earths crossovers, so we just colored the sky a different color.
Yeah, Red Sky crossover.
Called it a crossover. And it's like, you know, and they're just pulling they're pulling the pages right out of the 80s. That's out of the 80s playbook.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of titles. Let's go over to that. I think this is more interesting, talking about King in Black. There's a ton of tie-ins. We know they stopped the Black Cat series, rebooted it to issue 1 with the same creative team, so it could be a King in Black tie-in on issue 1, and they could sell more comic books. Larry, I'm interested in King in Black. I'm going to read the main series. I'm going to read Venom. I think there's like a King in Black Dragon versus American Kaiju comic. I'm going to read that one.
Oh, that looks killer.
Yeah, that was going to be fun. What is the reception been of the customers? Are they kind of event fatigued after Empire kind of fizzled out? Ten of Swords was too big.
Well,
ready for?
We're in a weird period right now because 2 months ago I would have told you that we were experiencing symbiote fatigue, but Donny Cates has had a little bit of a resurgence the last month. His last issue of Thor was really, really good after he delivered 2 stink bombs. 2 of his issues were really boring, and the crossover with Venom, where he goes into the future, started off strong and kind of fizzled out. So he was on a little bit of mediocre. Yeah, it ended good. But it seems like he's on the uptick right now, and we'll see where it goes. Black Cat #1 that you mentioned, she's supposed to be getting her own, the character's supposed to be getting her own anti-venom. So she's going to have a white symbiote. So Black Cat #1, I think, is going to be a big key issue. I ordered a bunch of those. I don't know if it'll sell. We'll see.
It's a good way for J. Scott Campbell to get more variants. So.
Oh, I love his covers.
Is he doing?
It's a good
variants?
way for him to sell more variants on Black Cat. Yeah.
Is he doing the covers again for this next volume of
J. Scott Campbell? JScottCampbell.com.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just the ones on his website.
We got Marvel kind of put the screws to him and made him actually do some regular A covers for customers too. So we got a year out of J. Scott Campbell covers on Black Cat, which are pretty cool looking covers.
Yeah, you can go to the limited ones.
I know, of course.
Awesome. But yeah, we've been ordering those. You get pretty good. By the way, you can get pretty good wholesale prices on those if you order in quantities. But yeah, I love J. Scott Campbell variants on Black Cat, or it's about the only reason to buy it, I think.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Jed McKay, especially after reading Taskmaster. I'm still pissed off about that comic book, but it was so bad. So I know, Larry, we had you on the channel a couple times. We were talking about King in Black. Are you still convinced it's going to tie into what they were doing in Dawn of X with X-Men? Or
Nope.
You dropped that?
Nope, I dropped that. I mean, that was, talk about wishful thinking. That whole Araco, I thought the whole Ten of Swords was a train wreck.
It was a train wreck.
And somebody in the chat when I was saying that said, "Oh, Larry, you're giving Marvel far too much credit, for that ambitious storyline that you're anticipating." And I certainly was. None of it's connected.
I'd say you're giving them too much credit, even just calling it a train wreck. At some point, somebody had to build a train and put it on tracks.
75% of it sold really good for me. It started off strong. I mean, people were buying every part. It was just the ending where the sales kind of fell off for me. And I look at some of the forums online. There's a group of fans who really like that story. That group wasn't me, but some people liked
the ancillary. It sold well in the main titles. The smaller titles, Marauders, stuff like that. Like, oh no, people just didn't want it. It just didn't fly. But the X-Men, X Factor, Wolverine, it was fine. It did well. But yeah,
I would submit that the X line is in a worse place after that whole crossover. It's back to a fucking mess. I mean, I don't get it.
It kind of exposed a lot of the creators as being lacking.
Yeah, because all of the with House of X, Powers of X, they built up a lot of goodwill, and even through the first year, they only skimmed a little bit out of that bank account of goodwill. Some of the books like Excalibur were eating a little bit more, and Marauders and New Mutants were eating a little bit more of the goodwill than other books. but this one was just empty the bank account. There's nothing left in that bank account from the goodwill that they built up.
This crossover really took away from Ben Percy's Wolverine. I mean, he had a nice little run going, and he was building momentum, and then this crossover kind of just muddied that whole thing. It'd be interesting to see how the title survives after this.
I think what it really exposed, in my opinion, what it really exposed was the fact that the creators do not talk to each other. They don't collaborate with each other, not on the level that they should. They pretty much just have
daily.
I mean, God, it's just.
I think they don't have an oversight to tell them. You know what? I'm glad you're talking, but this is a really stupid idea to have them do a map like competition, or to kill a cat, or to have a spelling contest,
or a dance off,
three-legged race, or whatever other stupid things they included.
That only worked in Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm sorry.
I'm still of the opinion that they've been hiring Hickman to basically write a paragraph. You know, this is what's going to happen in X of Swords, and they fax it out or send it out to the C team.
He writes those info dumps.
Oh, those white
Hickman
pages
only writes
gotta
those.
Go. That is,
he writes
what
those,
a scam.
and everybody else fills in off those info dumps. That's got to be it.
Yeah, I think Jordan White, one of the Legion of Doofuses, really dropped the ball and probably did not save that team from themselves with all their stupid ideas. It's obvious Hickman had checked out and he wasn't in those meetings. I almost guarantee he would have.
Last year, when stuff wasn't going great at DC, everybody was complaining and welcoming the winds of change. The winds of change have happened over at DC. And the winds of change are going to blow through with the Marvel offices at any point. I mean, at some point, something's got to change. And I don't know. Overall, it ain't working right now.
No. I'll tell you what, if their meetings, their teleconference meetings or whatever like that were anything like mine at the shop, it's like herding cats anyway. And I'm sure my guys are far more disciplined than idiots Marvel. So I doubt anything actually was talked about of any kind of worth. So.
Well, supposedly they're in Slack and Zoom all the time, but kind of getting back to King in Black. We've been building up for this for is it 2-3 years now? Something like that.
Yep. Yeah. I've ordered it like it's a Donny Cates book. I mean, I'm loaded for bear on it. Let's see how it does.
Yeah. This is the biggest order that I've placed since Batman 50. So it's a big deal. So we'll see. It's like House of X Powers of 10 reorders at 2 and 3. So we're gonna have to really sell some copies.
It's gonna have to suck to not sell because people are very excited for it.
Or it's going to need to pull the same kind of bait and switch bullshit that Absolute Carnage did, where it's just you find out at the end of the event that it's just a lead into another event. As long as they don't do that, I mean, they can deal with Fallout.
Nobody felt burnt by Absolute Carnage, though.
Unless you bought all the ancillary.
This is actually a really good opportunity for people that don't normally buy 1 in 10s and 1 in 25s and 1 in 50s to actually get one for a decent price because there's going to be so many of them out there. So keep your eyes open for those variants if there's some of them that appeal to you because they're going to sell well below ratio. As far as
I could see that.
And the like.
I could see that.
Yeah, you'll be able to pick
I'll
up
be honest, Larry. Look at the creative teams associated with King in Black. It's very underwhelming. It's almost like Future State. Other than Donny Cates being on Venom.
With any big company crossover, I mean, I always tell my customers, if you're interested, go with the core titles. I mean, Donny Cates, Ryan Stegman, stick with the core title.
I mean, you look at Death Metal and the tie-ins there. It's all like James tying in Peter J. Tomasi and like Ram V. Like all their best writers are contributing to that one, along with Scott Snyder. But this, it feels like after Stegman,
some of the one shots are sketchy creative teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Some of the later ones they got progressively worse. Like I know Williamson did Speed Metal. That one was really good.
But, it was better than most of the others. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was the second best. Well, no, that's probably the best issue of Dark Knight's Death Metal.
Metal
period.
needs a little jolt of adrenaline here at the Empire. That's kind of hit a wall. People seem to be meddled out in my area.
I think it's
People are
because
dropping
nobody knows what the hell that story is.
Yeah, they're confused. They're like, "What? I thought this was supposed to be post-apocalyptic type of DC, but now it's gotten weird."
Not only that, but the one shots. People were on board with the metal one shots
Those are dope.
because they were all a story about a different Batman. This time they were simple to understand, like Murder Machine, Red Death, Dawnbreaker. They were all simple to understand what the concept behind them was. The death metal one shots aren't anywhere near as cut and dry, and they seem all over the damn place.
Yeah, and I already hated the Batman Who Laughs, so making him like the most powerful character in the history of DC Comics is just infuriating.
I cannot believe how popular as a back issue that character is. To me, he is the most generic. I think you had said it, Wes, that he's like a villain that your 10-year-old would have created with crayons.
Yeah, they should have.
The lunch table.
They should have focused on the Upside Down Man.
Well,
that dude was great.
He was great.
Dude,
He was
great.
awesome.
well, considering
He's
DC
still around.
is basically the Batman company. I mean, what else? Who else would be the villain?
Upside Down Man.
Perpetua was supposed to be the villain, but now Batman Who Laughs is even bigger. But they've got other new characters. Why isn't there more Jarro?
Because they're the Batman. DC is basically the Batman company. I mean, you could get rid of Superman. You could get rid of Mr. Terrific.
No.
Look, I'm just saying.
You could get rid of
were
Mr. Terrific, but you couldn't
get
rid
rid
of
of.
Superman.
You could actually get rid of Superman from DC and just have Batman, and they already basically do that now. Like everything is basically somehow, some way tied into Batman. Whether it's Green
I've got
Lantern or
so
something,
many-
everything goes back to Batman because DC is basically writing Batman's cape and cowl, and they've been doing that for the last 30-something odd years.
Well,
I've got
DC was on
customers waiting in the wings just for a decent Superman book. I mean, we're talking like a waiting list of people. Call me whenever Bendis gets off of it. I'll come back in and start buying comics again. So I
You know
don't
how they
about
could
that.
sell Superman comics? Make him Batman.
Because Batman versus Superman. I'm just saying.
Yeah, Clark Kent Batman. He takes over the cape and cowl after Batman disappears. It'd be amazing.
Well,
Oh,
right.
no.
Gotham
They
City
did
cleaned
that.
up in 5 minutes.
Right? I think
Patrick
they did that.
Wilson.
I think they've already did that before, right?
I've never
Or was
understood
that just
that either.
In
Or was
Batman the
there-
Animated Series. In the Batman
Ah.
Superman animated.
What doesn't Bruce just do that? Say, hey, I'm going to be taking the afternoon off. Could you come over and clean up
Technically,
clean up Gotham?
Girl is
got
as
10 minutes
powerful as
left.
Superman, and she's she won't die if she uses all of her power anymore. So technically, there's no reason to have Batman in Gotham.
I just want the next villain of the next DC event to be Mr. Mixpelix.
There you go.
I don't know
in there.
why. I don't care. I just want him as the main.
No,
bad
he was in something I was reading about. I read too many comics. Sometimes it gets hard to keep them all straight.
He got abused really bad by Superboy Prime. That was pretty funny. I mean, just torched. I mean, that was so hilarious.
I don't know. So I guess we should kind of wrap up the King in Black talk. If there's anything really left to say, do you think
People are
it's been
excited
set up?
for it.
People are excited for it. They're ready to pay down their money. Obviously, we'll be covering it right here on the channel on Wednesday. On Tuesday, we're going to talk about Batman, Catwoman. Obviously, we're going to talk about that.
Let's
here in
take a
little bit.
panel discussion. How does King in Black end, fellas? What do you think?
Another event.
I think we find out that the King in Black, Null himself, is actually Dylan Brock from another universe, and Dylan's the only one that can stop it.
No. I hope
I'm hoping that there's at least a little bit of resolution, and that honestly, it wouldn't surprise me to see Venom as the new god of the symbiotes, just to see where it goes from there, and then maybe connect it with the more with what's going on in Thor.
I say it opens up the entire comic business for a new King writer, because I say Donny Cates is exposed when he has the King in White come in to stop the King in Black, and it's just a lame ending. He's got a MacGuffin coming.
Wouldn't surprise
Do
me.
you think
at
he's
all.
made it too powerful that you can't just take him out with?
Yep, and he's been laying out that there's another being out there that's equally as powerful as Null, who's the King in White, and that's just dumb.
They've already had that basically, which is Go ahead.
I was gonna say, does the King in White have a hood?
Yeah.
Oh Lord.
I'm sorry, I had to.
Funny.
Moon
It's
Knight,
Moon
huh?
Knight. It's Moon
Yeah.
Knight. Moon Knight becomes the guy that kills Null.
Oh God, no.
That'd be hilarious.
I don't know. Donny Cates has a lot of Scott Snyder in him. Do you think this is his Dark Knight's metal, where it doesn't really end? It just kind of sets up a really dark universe moving forward.
I don't know.
It wouldn't surprise me that this is going to be kicking off its own, Marvel 619 or whatever. I don't know.
Whoa,
Yeah.
Rey Mysterio in the Marvel Universe?
Okay.
619.
And he'll come in and just like do that thing with the ropes and the spinny kick thing to everybody. The ropes will just appear no matter where he's at. That's his superpower.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I hope Donnie sticks the landing on this, but we'll see.
I liked Absolute Carnage, but I did feel like it should have been a Venom story rather than an event when it was all over. It's like, this is just a continuation of Venom. This wasn't a Marvel-wide event.
Yeah. And it's one of the reasons why I really hope that the King in Black miniseries itself and the Venom issues do very well. And I hope everything else sells zero.
You don't want to read King in Black Marauders #1?
No.
Well, I hope that Black Cat is a big seller, because that's the book that I ordered the most of. So
More
we'll see.
than King in Black?
Yes. You have to shove your money where nobody's shoving their money to make money in modern comics, and nobody's buying Black Cat 1. And I get tipped off that she gets an anti-venom suit, and that sounds really
Well, we knew
cool
she was
to
going
me.
to have a new costume. That was in the solicitation.
Yeah, but not a white symbiote, not an anti-venom. That's
What if it's a
balls.
pink symbiote? Are you going to be screwed?
Gonna be cool.
Pink symbiote.
I like it.
I have pretty high expectations for this, even after Empire and Ten of Swords, which I did think ended on a good note. That last issue was actually pretty good. But for the most part, Donny
You thought
Cates has
Empire
delivered
ended
with
good?
this. No.
Oh,
I
Ten
did
of
not
Swords
think
you
Empire
thought
ended.
ended good.
The very last issue was good.
Oh, okay.
It didn't redeem it.
What was the point of the fucking swords?
That wasn't a point. You skip, you go Empire Creation, and then you skip to Empire Destruction, and then you read the real event.
Yes.
Oh.
You skip the 20 issues in between that they just robbed you for, and you get an actual halfway decent story.
Yeah. The sword fighting or not sword fighting, whatever it was buttholes.
Yes. But
It was,
I couldn't read. It's an X-Men crossover that I couldn't get through. I couldn't read it. I flipped through all the pages, and it hurt my head.
that last issue was gorgeous. That was Pepe Larraz, right?
Oh, there's no problem with Pepe Larraz's art, man.
It was
Good
tight.
stuff.
It was tight. So I think, have we beat the dead horse that is Marvel already? Is it time to go to DC Comics? We already kind of started getting in there anyway.
Let's go, DC.
All right, so let's talk about
Batman.
John Ridley's Other History of the DC Universe. I read it here, and reviewed it on the channel. It came pretty clear to me. I don't think John really is very fond of Superman. He's certainly not very fond of Justice League. And it didn't feel like he liked John Stewart of the Green Lantern Corps very much at all. Kind of presented Black Lightning as a condescending a-hole. I don't know, Pele, what was the reaction from your customers to the other history of the DC universe?
I think that it was mixed. A lot of the I think that just it tipped a lot of people's bullshit meter to the point to where they didn't really want to take it seriously. So,
so you think they were already aware that it wasn't worth their time?
Right. Yeah. It isn't. There's a lot of I don't know. There's not a lot of goodwill right now going around, so they're not exactly have a very open mind towards.
I don't
know. What's up?
I have never liked a single thing that John Ridley has done.
No, that's the problem.
I from the first thing that I ever read by him, which was Authority, Human on the Inside, which was back 16, 17 years ago, I could tell exactly the kind of person and the kind of view he has on superheroes, and I want no parts of it. If you think Warren Ellis is negative about superheroes, if you think Garth Ennis has a, let's just say,
Millar.
condescending view of superheroes, you've never met anyone until you've spoken to John Ridley. Or you've read John Ridley, not spoken. I don't know what he is as a person.
He hates capes. I mean,
he hates heroes.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of the way I came away with it. Specifically, Superman. It's almost implying that, like, the red S on his chest was like the symbol of oppression and stuff like that. Yeah. Which is like a really weird take. Like, I guess, from an individual perspective, but if you think about the creators of Superman, two Jewish men created, at the height of the Third Reich, Superman, from planet Krypton is destroyed as a lone immigrant arriving in America, is accepted and raised up, and finds hope. When all he knew was despair, everyone's dead. Superman probably represents something very different to those creators, was meant to represent something very different to kind of bastardize their creation and try to use it to his own benefit. I did not enjoy it. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it's very pessimistic, very, very hateful look. It's kind of like, with SJWs in general, how they want to turn things on their head and destroy convention for the sake of doing it. And that's just kind of what it feels like. So,
well, I couldn't resist the B cover, that Black Lightning cover. That was beautiful. I ordered a stack of those, and I flipped through it, and I couldn't get through it with all the words. And to quote one of my customers, he picked it up off the table and said, "What the fuck is this? An encyclopedia?" I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot.
It's not a comic book. It's like a thesis.
Oh, you ain't kidding.
Or something. Yeah.
The B
it's a
cover's
picture book.
The B cover's a beautiful piece of graphic excellence, and I ain't fucking reading this thing. But too many words.
Oh my! Too many words.
This would take me 2 hours to get through. Look at this thing. Good God.
It is a very.
This is not
very
a comic
dense
book.
read.
This is an encyclopedia.
But that stuff's been worked before. Obviously, Alan Moore, with his original Saga of the Swamp Thing, was written somewhat like that.
Yeah, but it was actually well written prose.
It was very well written. It's absolutely worth it.
I don't have the time in my day for that, fellas.
So. I don't know. Does anyone else have anything to say about the other history, or did people already bail on it, or the people that were skeptical to begin with, already weren't interested in basically the people that were buying it were already on board?
It's the best Black Lightning cover in the history of mankind, the B cover. What a beauty.
But
that's about it. I like the cover. That's it.
Anybody who was interested, kind of caught wind of what it was, the intent there, and just I haven't heard any positive things about it, put it that way.
So Larry, do you think this is the future of DC Comics? Obviously, they had a couple of free comic book day, or not free comic book, but free digital comics with the Milestone Reborn, where they basically changed the static origin to include, like, he's in a Black Lives Matter rally. They did the Marvel Voices, where they basically did the. It was a comic book about that. Is a Christian? I can't remember his last name. When he was in the New York City or New York Park, where the police called on him, he used to be a Marvel editor. He wrote that. We saw on Batgirl 50, she was out there, trashing everybody, including her father, and watching a bunch of marches. We've seen a lot of marches in Batman lately. Is that the future of DC Comics? It feels like they're going heavy into this.
If those particular type of political messages are the future of DC Comics, but the result of Metal is continuity becomes fluid. So characters whose origins are in the 60s could, in theory, participate in a Black Lives Matter rally, and it would still be part of continuity because continuity is fluid. So yeah, that's the future of the DC universe: fluid continuity. They can, whatever the status quo of whatever the editorialship is at the current time, they can do whatever stories they deem fit because continuity's fluid, man.
One thing I've noticed is that certain readers online just kind of like mentally edit out that shit now. They've gotten to the point to where they want to read about the characters and they want to read the stories, but they mentally edit out all that woke crap, and some of them just don't even recall it.
Well, they recall it. They don't even want to mention it because you'll get dragged into a quagmire of shit.
I've talked to these people because I talked to these people. I said, well, what did you think about that in Batgirl 50? And one of my customers is like, what? Oh, yeah, there's this. Oh, I didn't even pay attention to that. And it enrages the creators online when they hear about that. The people are just tune it out because it's like, oh, there's more of that crap again, and they just tune it out.
Imagine that the customer's there for the product and the character more than the creator.
So yeah, I mean, it's and that's getting to be, from what I saw, it's getting to be fairly common because whenever I mention any of these woke moments to customers, they just kind of like, what? Oh yeah, that. Well, whatever.
So Brian, what do you think? Is this the future of DC Comics, or are they going political for the next few years? It feels like they're putting all their eggs in that basket. They're doing it with the Batman family now. That's the biggest title. Are you there, Brian?
I don't know.
I'm back.
There he goes.
Brian's drunk already.
He was working on his new IP. Tell us the name of the IP. Come on.
Hot-blooded foreigner, Sailor Rogowski. It's gonna be a banger.
Nice. I'm in.
So,
All
Brian,
right.
Do you think this is the future of DC Comics? It feels like they're wading more into social commentary, lots of iconography associated with the things that we've all been experiencing for the last 10 months. We're seeing it in Batman now. Batman's the biggest character, the biggest title. It feels like DC is kind of putting all their eggs in that basket now. Do you see that happening?
Yeah, they've started to go more activist in their content, as we saw through the second history of DC. I think Batgirl had that one comic where she was out there protesting against where she was protesting against the Gotham police, which ironically, the thing that made me laugh about that was she ends up becoming the police commissioner through the Batman Beyond timeline, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's certainly ironic. So she's going to be protesting her future self. So that just lets me know, like, nobody in DC really cares about their continuity. They only care about them. Yeah, there is no continuity. They just care about the message.
It's fluid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's fluid, like my gender.
Yeah.
So very 2020.
Right. Mm-hmm. Sorry, but yeah, I don't think DC's gonna be very consistent in anything other than quote unquote the message. As long as the message gets across, that's all that matters.
I can't.
And
I
also
can't
Batman.
Yeah, I can't wait for DC to get fully. I mean, they keep saying that's not what they're doing. That's not what they're doing. That's not what they're doing. But they're going to be all on top of that Marvel Now, all new Marvel Now, all different Marvel Now shit within like 3 years, and they were already the number 2 company. They're going to turn them themselves into like the number 5 company. I'm going to laugh.
Yeah, it's gonna reach a point though that they're just going to burn out so many customers that they won't sell, and they'll either go under or they'll have to change what they're doing.
Yeah, the title, instead of being all new, all different, will be same shit, different day.
Yeah. Do you want to read this? Just buy Marvel back issues from 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Same shit.
Am I supposed to share this, Brian?
Oh yeah, you guys wanted to see what we're working on for our second IP. So if you wanted to share this real quick,
I will. Do you mind if I go to the bathroom while you do it?
Yeah, go for it.
But I was afraid Paley was going to say something crazy.
What? I don't.
You know
when do I do that?
Don't play with me.
When do I do that?
So this is the new property we're working on. It starts with a Super Sentai hero passing off her powers to a Marine on Okinawa. So it does have a connection to Rags in that regard, but it's still its own universe, its own thing. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Luigi's having a blast.
It's not in the same universe.
It's not in the same universe. It's completely different. It's more fun, more upbeat, a little bit more kid friendly. So you can show this to your kids. You can read it on the bus. You could read it in public.
Curious, why didn't you make it part of the same universe? You could have made it upbeat, fun for kids, and still had it tie into the same universe.
Nah, wouldn't have worked.
Okay.
It wouldn't. It needed to be different enough. You know, Rags is more adult, more depressing, and this way we could have something a little bit more fun, something a little bit more
Less
unique.
boobies.
Yeah, less boobies, if you will.
And when it gets all the way to the end, and after Brian has explored all of it, we get the Regina Corps.
Oh no!
And they all live. And they all connect via, except for it won't be a lighthouse or a watchtower. It'll be a bar where all the Reginas can come to from all the different universes to discuss Regina-ing.
Brian, what are your launch plans for this? Is this going to be
the Council of Reeds?
Yes,
like the Council. Is it going to be a crowdfunded item, or is this going to be through shops?
This is going, for now, we're just doing this as a Patreon only thing until we get like enough to do like a complete total volume 1, and then once I get a complete total volume 1, I will be reaching out to shops. I definitely reached out to Perch. Perch is interested, so see if we can't sell this just ourselves without having to go through a publisher.
Nice.
I mean, we definitely have the means to.
That's micro distribution.
Yep, just make our own distribution. Like, hey, if a shop wants it, bam.
Well, I would say there's only 50 comic book shops buy 90% of all the independent books. So, but that's all you have to do. You deal with 50 shops, you can get 90% of what you get out of Diamond.
Yep. And the real fun thing about this IP is I've reached out to other independent creators that I know on Twitter. So a lot of their characters are going to be making cameos as magical girls. It should be fun. If you guys heard of the Mythoverse guys, Dobie Kroger appears as a drunken Sanshin player, and her power is she. If you ever seen like Kung Fu Hustle, they had that guy who could create monsters and weapons with his little 3-string guitar. So she's got the same ability, except she has to get drunk in order to play, and the more drunk she gets, the more she messes up. So it's meant to be like fun, and I spent a lot of time in Okinawa, so I know the area, I know the land pretty well. I know how things work out there, so it should be pretty good. It shouldn't be like a really bad American manga like most American mangas are. This should actually look and feel like someone from Japan wrote this.
I will do you a favor though and get you the first ever preemptive cultural appropriation. So that way it's out of the way and you can ignore it going forward.
And I have the block for that because my artist is Asian, so it's not cultural appropriation.
Yes. Well, it's still out of the way.
And and also my assistant, well, not really assistant, but somebody that's really been helping me out on this is my friend Yayoi, who I met when I was stationed in Okinawa. So I've been passing her the scripts and making sure like everything is culturally accurate from the Japanese side. So it's my diversity reader.
You got
So-
a sensitivity reader, you giant
Sensitivity reader?
Right, but I know I just have like all my bases covered to make sure this is like as accurate as possible. And you see Luigi's art is just wish I could show you guys the rest, but oh man, this
Why
right
don't you
here.
do it?
I can't show you all of it. I just only show you this one preview page. The monster here in the bottom right corner, and I'll just explain this ahead of time. All of our monsters are going to be named after Glock in some shape, way, or fashion. So we have a Glocktopus, which is going to be like a giant octopus with 8 Glocks in its arms. A Glock nest monster, which will come from the ocean. A Glockatil, which will be a bird firing a Glock, among other things. And then we also have an evil giant robot called Glocktimus Prime.
Holy fucking shit, man.
Yeah, right. And we're kind of treating them like Mega Man bosses in a way, And then we also have like those are like the first 4 bosses, and the next 4 bosses are going to be like Ebola-chan, Corona-chan. So they're like 4 chans. Yeah. Oh, hey, like Ridiculous says, it's exactly like this. This monster right here, spoiler, his name, it's based off of the Japanese Kappa monster. So its name is Busta Kappa. And while we have like all these jokes names, it's gonna be handled very, very serious.
Holy fucking shit.
On the long run. But yeah, that's
Is that the preview?
That's a preview of just this one page. Once we get the first 17 pages done, which should hopefully happen next month, I'll share it with you guys and just see what you guys think.
I can't wait.
It sounds like a hoot.
Oh, fucking
All right,
hell.
so getting back to the business at hand, are we done talking about the other history, or does anyone else have something to say about the John Ridley? Well, what does this make you think about the upcoming next Batman, Pele? Are you excited about that? Is this turn people off?
Well, I mean, it's mostly it's going to be is Tinian writing next Batman.
No, the next Batman written by John Ridley in Future State.
Yeah,
I hope there's less words.
You hope it's a comic book?
Yes.
I don't think people will care. I really, really don't.
I think as long as it has Batman on the title.
Pretty much, yeah. But they get too far. They get too far into the activism, and it will impact sales. So.
Well,
But
there's
isn't
only
it
4
only
issues
one
of
issue?
that one.
Oh, 4?
Yeah, that's 4.
One of the few that's getting 4 issues, or maybe it's 3. Most of them are getting 2, but that one's getting more. So I don't know. I heard from a lot of people saying, yeah, a lot of people, a few viewers said it made them reconsider getting the next Batman in Future State.
Yeah.
But let's get to the next topic. I think we've gotten that one enough, and I think we're going to send this one over to Larry on Twitter. Tom King promised sex in Batman Catwoman #1. He didn't use the word sex. He used something a little bit more descriptive. You've got the comic book. Are they going for it?
How am I going to turn on my camera now, fellas? Here we go. All right. Now, Tom King said that Batman and Catwoman were going to fuck
It's true.
in this book. And as a back issue, the Batawang issue, it made a ton of money off of it. I flipped through this issue, and here's a panel of them,
Getting down.
Bruce kissing her neck.
Yeah.
Canoodling.
That's the raciest thing in the issue. They snuggle on a rooftop. They snuggle on a beach. Typical Tom King stuff. There's nothing explicit in this issue. He used explicit language, and I noticed when he did that, he caused both distributors to sell out of all 3 covers within an
That's
hour.
what it was for. That's the reason why. Yeah,
That's people
Bait and
got
switch.
fucking
It is
people
bait and
are
switch.
going to get burned on this book. It's almost unreadable. It takes place in 4 different timelines. Every page is the Tom King framing sequence where we're in the present day, we're in the past, we're in an alternate past, we're in an alternate future. It's lavishly illustrated nonsense.
So would you say that
I know other shops, my phone started buzzing with, hey, are you going to go for this? Luckily, I had the issue in hand that I could flip through. And I said, God, I think he was joking. There's nothing in here. Let me go through again. And as I was in the time period it took me to flip through and get back to people had ordered hundreds of different covers of this book.
Yeah.
There's going to be people who want to say this is the fuck issue. There's nothing explicit in this book.
The
Nothing.
New 52, where they first bang, where they
Yeah,
actually
that's
show it on
Catwoman-
panel,
Catwoman
that
number
actually
1.
is more explicit than this.
It is. They're grinding on a rooftop in Catwoman New 52 number 1 on the last
that is
page.
the most. That is 10 times more explicit than what you're seeing.
There's nothing explicit in. He
BatCat.
kisses her on the neck.
Yeah.
He kisses her on the neck in 1 of 6 panels on a page.
There's a bra
There's
shot.
Nothing.
I have to ask at this point, how many times does Tom King have to false advertise to you before somebody
Precisely.
sues?
When has he ever false advertised to this level? This is
The wedding.
crazy.
Oh yeah.
The
It is
wedding.
probably where it
Well,
is.
well, hold on.
That's DC's solicitation department. Was Tom King ever promoting
yeah.
that wedding?
Yes.
Well,
Yeah,
hold on.
he was
Let's
saying
talk
they're
about
getting.
that.
He said 2 weeks before the book. 2 weeks. I've got the screen cap. 2 weeks before that book came out, he said, "Batman, Catwoman, getting married in 2 weeks. Get ready."
Okay, so hold on.
That guy sucks.
Hold on. Let's
All right,
talk about
Ryan.
this wedding. Let's talk about this wedding thing real quick. If you, for a second, ever believe that Batman and Catwoman were getting married, that's your own fault.
That's not true.
That's
man.
absolutely
That's
your
That's
own
true,
fault.
not.
man.
That's
No,
not
no, it
fair.
is. It is.
When
'Cause
you're-
come
No,
on.
it isn't.
Hold on.
Partner.
Let me explain. Let me explain.
I'll
When
explain
have
to you
co-
after.
When have comics ever delivered on anything that was a good, wholesome marriage, right?
Cotton
You're
Gene.
talking.
Like-
Nobody says anything about a good, wholesome marriage.
Like
It's
that's
the
where I'm
wedding.
going with this. Just even a wedding, like Spider-Man and Mary Jane. Yeah, married, and then retcon. So
Reed and Sue.
Great.
yeah,
We-
that was the biggest
Reed and
bait and
Sue.
switch.
We
It
were
was the biggest bait and switch.
solicited at the retail level.
You
for
were
this.
lied to, and it was
Yeah,
so
no
obvious.
Shit. No shit.
It was
really
so
wasn't.
It
really
was
wasn't
absolutely
obvious.
not. It was absolutely obvious. There's no way they will ever let Bruce be happy. Just like there's no way they're ever going to let Peter Parker be happy or not an inept civilian. You know, believing for a hot minute that if it wasn't Earth 2, yeah, was it Earth 2?
I never thought it was going to last, but I absolutely believed.
Yeah, I mean that's
that
the
they
whole
were getting
point. It's
married.
not
No,
it's not expecting it's going to last. It's expecting that there would be a wedding,
It
even if
wasn't
I was
gonna happen.
expecting. Oh, shut the fuck
You
up, Rob.
fucking
what I was
master of
okay.
obvious
I was
ones
expecting
already
a wedding, and then something happened in the wedding that would just screw everything to hell. Is what I was expecting to happen, and it didn't even get that far.
Which is
So
disappointing.
it's just like, oh.
But DC,
this is stupid.
we're encouraging retailers to go out and set up lavish wedding celebrations with cakes and stuff.
They were telling stores to take out small business loans to buy extra copies.
Now, fellas,
Right?
these are all the guys who got shit canned this week too. That you're all crying for
Yeah.
too. They fucking deserve to lose their jobs. That
Oh,
was
yeah.
they shut off their retailer forum. They outright lied. If you weren't at the retailer level, seeing the solicitation process and all the stuff that was going on the forums, just shut the fuck up about how you were stupid and you were duped, because
Yeah.
never been anything like this in my 30 years buying
It
Yeah.
was
comic
straight
books.
up.
They were
false.
sending us
Level
wedding
from a publisher.
invitations. They were giving us daily updates. I mean, it was like, yeah, it was a long con.
It was a
I'll
fucking
admit to that.
long lie.
It,
But
it was
it was-
like they were selling it too hard.
The people who all just you could be a bank and fucking call all your customers and say, invest in this CD, it's gonna earn you 200%. You could outright fucking lie. I mean, it was just, what they did was unscrupulous. They all lost their jobs this week, and they all deserved to lose their jobs just based on this. What they did was total scumbaggery. I've never
It was
seen anything
Absolutely
like
agree.
this in
It
my
was
life.
fraud.
Then when they get called on it, they shut off their forum. They buried their heads in the sands. They were a bunch of unscrupulous little pricks, and they all lost their jobs.
Now
They leaked
they
it to
bought
a
them back.
major-
They did take them back. They had to.
Yeah,
But,
with a fight, you had to fight tooth and
You
nail.
did.
And
But
you
they
know,
got back. They
and-
got
and-
back 400 issues that I bought. I said, "Fuck."
and they
You're gonna
pouted
take 'em
about
back.
it, and they shut off your forum, and they cut down your services, and they didn't want to deal with you anymore because you didn't fall for the outright lie.
Yeah, they were basically getting a loan. They were getting a loan from the comic shop owners.
An
And-
interest-free loan at
Yeah,
that.
an interest-free loan for like 90 days until they were forced to pay it back.
Well,
So-
this Batman Catwoman is yet another start of the Tom King's exiting of the comic book business. This
Yeah,
is
that was
unreadable.
it.
Really?
Yeah,
Because
this is
normally,
like-
Tom King's first 3 or 4 issues are really good, and then it falls off the rails.
I
of a
can't
miniseries.
follow his non-sequential storytelling. Told in 4 different timelines, maybe alternate timelines. It's tough.
There's no Batawang and there's no kitty pussy. So
There's no titties. At least they could have given us a tit.
Of
No
course,
kitties, no
of
titties.
course, Batman and Catwoman are talking about their daughter Helena in the future, and of course she's gay. Why wouldn't she be gay?
Of course she's gay. Yeah.
Of course.
Well, the
Everybody's gay.
50% of Marvel characters and DC characters are going to be gay.
I
So,
think all new characters in
Are
DC
gay,
are going to be
yeah.
gay.
100% gay, and then the entire universe ends. Thank you.
because there's nobody reproducing. So.
Well, I mean, you can still reproduce, but hit that like button if you're enjoying the stream, fellas. Jesus. Fucking...
I guess
Yeah,
it's gonna
I
be
started
budding.
it. I'm
I guess
not-
they're gonna have to start
Fucking
budding. or
Bonnie's
something
in
like
here. God.
Yeah, I started that. I'm not ashamed. I'm not ashamed. But for me, they just sold it too hard for me to believe it. Like just on like a personal Brian Ball level. It's like you're kind of selling this hard. I don't think this is gonna happen.
You know what? When they haven't sold it really hard in the past, they've gone through with it. I mean,
Mhm.
the Scott and Jean wedding went through.
Aquaman and Mirror, baby.
Yeah.
Okay.
The thing just got married.
Who? Gambit and Rogue.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that was a swerve, because remember the original was supposed to be Colossus and Kitty.
Right.
So
I knew that wasn't going to happen.
and they were selling that one pretty hard too, but they weren't selling it anywhere near DC Batman 50 level hard.
It's not even the same thing. My mother doesn't know who Colossus and Kitty Pryde are. My
That-
mother knows who fucking
valid.
Batman and Catwoman are.
I had customers that never even bought a comic book before that were saying, "Oh, Batman's getting married. Make sure to pull back a copy of that for me." And it's like, just to call them and go, "Oh, by the way, I got your Batman number 50 in, and they didn't get married." Well, I don't want it then. Yeah, that's what I figured. Bye. Click.
DC was sending out forms for shops to get co-op money for producing fucking wedding
Yes.
cakes.
Yes. Yeah, we did. We had a 4-tier cake. It was beautiful.
Was
But
it good? Delicious?
It sucked because
You
we
were in a
bought
pit.
it. I got it at Sam's Club, but it was still, it was not cheap. It was not a cheap cake. It just wasn't a very delicious cake.
Did you buy a
there was
variant?
there was only 3 people that showed up for it anyway. So Yeah.
They
Because
charged
yeah,
all
they-
that leaked out.
$12,000 to do a retail shop variant, and those people had to fight to get DC to
Yeah.
return their money.
Mm-hmm.
They just tried
Yep.
to steal that money from.
We came this
50
close to do it. We came
was
this
the
close to
first-
doing a retail shop variant.
I did
so close.
That was the first one. That was the first DC cover I didn't do.
Yeah,
I'm
it
very
was-
lucky, and I've never done one since.
Yeah, it was like at that I was so close on that, and I just did not pull the trigger, and so glad I didn't. But
So,
ever
Larry-
since then, never considered again.
If Tom had let the cat out of the bag beforehand, would you have solicited a special cover for this? If Bruce and Selena, you know what I'm saying?
If they
Well, X-rated DC cover.
based on what
Oh
I
God,
made,
yeah.
based on what I made off the Batawang issue on a reorder, if Tom King had told me that there was
Little kitty.
pornographic scenes in this book and I confirmed it, I would have ordered
No,
it.
I'm saying, don't you wish you had? Would you have commissioned a special cover? X-rated just for the store.
They did they did special covers of this book. I wanted nothing to do
Yeah,
with
but
it.
wouldn't you wanted like the skin cover? You know what I'm saying?
If he had said that beforehand, perhaps.
Who's that guy that does the zombie tramp? Who's the guy that does the main zombie tramp covers?
It's they try to get me to work with that guy.
Yeah,
think I
I'd commission
know.
him because those that cracked me up.
I
But,
did a variant of Zombie Tramp #1.
Oh, okay.
Very good book.
Bill
Adam
McKay.
Warren. Adam
No.
Warren is the one that I get to do it.
There you go.
You try to.
Well, yeah, I tried to.
I don't know. So Tom
Anyway,
King is once again lying to the people. Obviously, he lied when he was at that Comic-Con and he said his life was in danger and he needed a bodyguard. He lied when he said Batman and Catwoman were getting married, and he lied on social media once again. And he lied about Jay Lee.
He's a serial liar.
He's a liar, and he also he's got a lot of lying in his life. And
CIA. I don't even
I
believe the CIA.
wonder
thing
if
anymore.
shops who ordered this are going to lash out. Because for the most part, shops are sheep. They don't fucking say boo when they take it in the ass. And he 100% dealt tons of people a shitty hand this week. It's
Well,
kind
I
of
mean,
funny.
if I'll tell you what, if they still believed him after Batman 50, then
I believed him enough to look myself. I did. I took a peek first. Other people just pulled the trigger.
I mean, it's
If you
sold
fuck-
after that because everybody came in and was like, oh, they're banging. I was like, they bang every Saturday. They bang on their days off. This is not
this
new.
book isn't released till next Tuesday.
They're just like, oh, it doesn't matter. They do it all the time. They've been together for like 10 years. Calm down.
I'm assuming Bruce Wayne's had a fucking ding dong between his legs for 60 years, but until you show it on panel, nobody cares.
It was cold in the Batcave.
I just
Yeah.
assume that all superhero characters are Barbie and Ken dolls. I don't want to think about it. No, but look, now there was always the possibility that Tom King would have learned his fucking lesson about lying to the customers after Batman 50. Now you can guarantee that he will never learn that lesson and never believe a word out of his goddamn mouth.
I think he was
never again.
If you read his deleted tweet, he might have been making a joke, and it just shows the trouble with Twitter. You can't infer tone. You can't infer if somebody is telling a joke, if somebody's being sarcastic. It's just very literal, and I think he might have been making a joke, and he is going to get fucking tortured for that this week, and he deserves it.
Yeah,
Well,
he
he's
deserved
a-
every bit of it.
He just because he tells he doesn't have a good sense of humor. Hey,
He has no
remember
sense
that
of humor.
thing I burned you all about? I'm gonna lie to you again.
Yeah.
I'm flipping
Fuck
through
you,
this
man.
book right now, and I'll tell you something. It is a stunning book. It is too bad that it is just soiled with fucking a Tom King script. Because Clayman, wow, what an artist.
Yeah, I saw before I saw Clayman, and for some reason my mind transposed that, and I thought it said B. Claymore at first. And I was like, oh God, they drug his sorry ass into this. And I was like, oh wait, oh Clayman, okay, no, okay.
I wish I could understand what's happening in this. Looks really interesting.
Well, there will be a review right here on the channel on Tuesday if you need the 411. So, all right, we done with that one. We ready to talk about some good news?
What's the good
exciting?
news?
Please.
The Super Sons are back. The challenge of the Super Sons is coming. Peter Tomasi is getting the band back together. John Kent, before he was aged up and sent off to the Legion of Superheroes. Damian Wayne, before he went psychotic again and created his own prison, are back together for a new 14-issue adventure, although it's going to be digital only. I don't know, Pele. I know you're a big fan of the Super Sons, but you don't like digital comics. Are you going to dip your toe over there just so you can see your favorite team back together?
Well, probably. But I was disappointed by that. Didn't come out in paper, a proper comic book. But I don't know why it didn't, because everybody's been clamoring for this, and it's refreshing. I don't know how in the hell they're going to manage this, but it's nice to see at least a kind of semblance of what it used to be. So
now that there's no continuity, can't they just keep making Super Sons comics like John Kent never went to the year 3100 or whatever?
Sure, what the hell? Why not?
I don't want to fucking read out of continuity stories.
There is no continuity.
There is no continuity.
No, the continuity is fluid. We don't know what that means yet. What I think it means is that they can.
It means it's pissed.
They can change time periods.
That means that this was before the 3100. This is like
so
just go back in time.
So anything that happens in this story had no impact on the future. It's a throwaway story.
Well, it's Super Sons. It's not really it's not the hard hitting stuff here. It's just entertainment, and that's fine. There's
DC would do very well to let Peter Tomasi take over Superman instead of Mark Waid.
Anybody to take over.
They already replaced him with Bendis and gave him Detective.
Well, the shoe hasn't dropped for the March titles yet.
We're expecting that within the next week or two.
Yeah, I think they're going to. They realize that if they once they announce that, it takes all of the focus. They want to get the first wave of orders in for their future stuff before they announce that, because all their real creative teams are on the March titles, and it's going to take the focus off their D team and their filler story that they're selling us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's probably pretty accurate.
What are you more excited about, Larry? Are you more excited about Endless Winter and Justice League Viking?
I just read Endless Winter. I have that as well. That's next week's book, and I can tell you 100% that it had to be a rejected file story. It is an unbelievably generic Justice League story that I can't even believe saw print.
It's basically the whole.
How's that?
The whole month of December.
Yeah, Endless Winter is a completely skippable event.
Yeah, it's not even an event. It's just kind of like a. Yeah, it's a non-event.
They're purging the files. They had an unpublished file story. Maybe this was supposed to be 2 annuals, and they've split it into 3 books or something. But it's just
It's way bigger than that. It's like 12 issues.
Okay, awful. First part's awful.
I think there's 4 Justice League Endless Winter, and then there's a Flash Endless Winter, and I think there's a Shazam. But I don't know. It's all the stuff that isn't. The ongoings have already started, and they're waiting for the March titles to start up. That's all the stuff that's getting Endless Winter treatment, I guess.
Well, I'm not going to be the best salesperson for Endless Winter.
Yeah, this is just kind of like running in place, just to kind of It means nothing. There's absolutely nothing.
I will say that I was of the opinion that Future State was going to be nothing more than Convergence 2.0, and I'm kind of coming around that it's a little bit more amped up. I love the DC Nation Presents book that they gave us to hand out this week. It's an incredible sales tool.
There's a video on the channel on Sunday.
Yep, I'm interested to see what type of orders me handing this thing out this week generates, because flipping through it's an issue of Wizard magazine, all focusing on a DC event. I mean, it's a can't complain from a promotion standpoint. This is a publisher putting their best foot forward.
Did they charge you for the shipping on that?
Maybe. I don't care about shipping. I'm not going to nitpick.
I'm just curious because we got an additional promotional charge that would have come out to actually having to pay for the book. It was like there's a promotional charge and the shipping charge, and I was like, wait a second here. This is about if I actually paid for the damn things.
I'll flip through my
Sounds like
invoice,
something we can talk offline. I don't know about that one.
Anyway, this is,
but just talking about the Future State stuff, it obviously matters because what is it? Detective Comics just introduced Mayor Nakano. He's running for mayor. We know in 2025 in Future State, he takes over Gotham and hires the magistrate, and they kick Batman and try and kill all of his understudies. We also know the Bendis stuff, I think, was heading towards Superman of Metropolis or whatever that is. So it feels like it's a little bit more in continuity than they were leading us on to believe, even though continuity is fluid.
I think that there's a lot of one of the impressions that I get is that they have changed so much of what it was going to be, and then they just kept evolving it over time, and it's become whatever they needed it to be.
It doesn't all look like shit to me. And my first impression was this is all shit. And flipping through this, I'm going to say that I'm interested in 20% of it. 20%. How's this for a fucking statement? 20% of it doesn't look like shit. Put that as a sales banner.
No, I'm really interested in that Superman War World book.
Yeah, that looks incredible. That looks incredible.
Justice League. There's another one in there. Oh, the Wonder Woman from Joelle Jones. I want to see that character.
There's two books that everybody's been asking for: the new Batman and the new Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
So those are the ones that have piqued the public's curiosity, anyway.
Yeah, it's just surprising what a pair of thighs can do, as far as selling a comic. So
Joelle Jones is no joke too. She's a rock solid creator. I mean, you gotta look through these creative teams and weed out the CD list and just see if there's anybody that is actually good. There's some good stuff here.
Yeah, we got Williamson in there. Philip Kennedy Johnson, who's doing The Last God, is doing some Superman stuff, and then the Ram V folks. He's doing Swamp Thing in the Justice League Dark.
Is Ram V a real guy? Is Ram V is Ram V somebody who has existed under another name and is now changing his name to Ram V for some reason?
I don't believe so.
He seems like he's very polished.
He's a British dude.
Okay.
Of Indian descent.
All right. Yeah, I like his stuff.
Yeah. He's a really good writer.
The level of his craft seems so sophisticated. It leads me to believe that he may have existed under another name at one time.
I think he was writing books.
Okay.
But I had that one wrong.
Very, very, very welcome addition into the comic world.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm glad DC got their hands on him. So I don't know, Paley. This is coming out in digital. If it sells well enough, the plan that the model DC is going to do, it will come out in trades eventually. Is that okay? Is that good enough for you and your customers? Or
no.
People still pissed that it's
Trades
not coming
don't
out
sell.
physically?
Trades don't sell here. Floppies sell, but hopefully it will sell well enough to where it will get a floppy series.
I sold 7 copies of the Super Sons Omnibus that ships this week, which is higher than the average number of omnibuses I sell. I think that Super Son fans are excessive compulsive. I think they want it all. They're in.
I think we got 3 copies. of it. I think if not all of them were pre-sold, the 2 of them are.
Yeah, I usually sell 1 to 3 copies of an omnibus. I thought that number was that's a really good number for my shop for an omnibus.
But yeah, I mean, if hoping that it does well enough in digital that it will spark an actual floppy ongoing. So just bring it back because I know that there's other comics that are pointed directed towards kids and stuff like that, but Super Sons was the comic that I could point to when people brought their 7, 8, 9-year-olds in, and like, what's a good comic for my son? What's a good comic for my daughter? What could they read? And I could say, buy Super Sons. And it would always hooked them, and then they would come back for some of the other stuff.
There's a big test for DC too, because DC's future plans they've stated is they want to court more of the book market. Under their current way of doing business, when they solicit to the book market, when they solicit a book to the book market, that book has already been subsidized by the direct market. That the art files, the artwork has been paid for by them selling the floppies to us. DC, to court the book market, they have to either drastically lower the costs for producing the book they sell to the book market, or they have to subsidize it somewhere else.
Or
they need sales like Raina Telgemeier.
Yes, or they need to drastically increase their sales. You can offset it just by volume. As long as you're not selling for below the cost of the paper.
Well, it's a different mechanic they sell to them too. The volume wouldn't necessarily set that off, because they sell it to them returnable. They sell it on a quarterly returnable basis. Yes. So they could sell them $1 billion of the book, and that cost would be offset. But then when $1 billion comes back at the next quarter, that's not offsetting it. They have to have it paid for by the time they solicit the book market.
I'm not talking about the stores. I'm talking about sell-through volume. I'm talking about sell-through volume. You can offset virtually any cost of creators by selling enough volume. As long as you could be selling for 1 penny above what it costs to print and ship the thing, and if you sell 40 million copies to consumers, you've paid for your creative cost.
That'd be Dogman numbers, man.
Yes. Yeah, that's what they're hoping for. That their characters are strong enough that they will be able to penetrate the market without having to take 15 or 20 years, like, to develop their brand there.
Yeah.
We'll see.
It's interesting that the woman who was doing the young adult novels for the book markets already gets shit canned after the first quarter returns came back.
Yep.
Funny, that didn't work out.
Oh, because the trade sells so well. Oh, oops, what happened?
But that's because they're selling books using their characters that aren't the actual characters.
Yes.
That's the difference. When you just slap Superman or Batman or Aquaman on something, but aren't selling an actual, like, a character that resembles in any way the actual IP, it doesn't matter. You're gonna fail.
She was all twisted up. She was trying to placate the ultra liberals in the library market and Scholastic. She was twisting up Bruce Wayne to be a maybe gay Asian fellow who whatever, blah, 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 so that she could just get these people to sign the purchase orders to take the books for a quarter until they fucking shipped them all back to them.
Yeah. So as long as to have success in that market, it's very simple. You keep your IP similar, the product that you're releasing similar to the IP that everyone knows, and you move a shit ton of volume.
Doc, we're in agreement.
They should probably just take their old classic stories and then...
This purge of personnel at DC were the sweet, sweet winds of change we've been hoping for, right?
Hopefully.
Yeah. Hopefully.
I love what Marvel's planning right now. I kind of talked about it before. Talked about it last week just a little bit.
Yep.
Whoa, back. They're going to be reprinting the big series of the 60s and 70s as true believers, starting with issue 1, like Avengers, Superman, Defenders, the big anchor series from the 60s and 70s. They're going to be reprinting those in series through True Believers, 1 through 100, 1 through 200, whatever. And I cannot wait. That is going to be awesome.
It's interesting that it took them 30 fucking years of getting pounded over the head with people begging for them to do it. It is great.
Finally doing that, and bring that back with the spinner racks in Sheets or wherever the hell, 7-Eleven, whatever, and push that shit through, and my God, we'll finally be able to get some new readership in.
7-Eleven is never going to take $1
for $1 each. Yeah,
they could sell you a candy bar for $3 instead of $1. They're not going to waste the space in their store for $1.
But I'm just saying, there's lots of places that will take it. Dollar Tree, be able to put it in Family Dollar, Dollar General. Put them in.
Those would be great. I think you hit the nail on the head there. All those chain dollar stores, they'll get purchase orders for millions of comic books with files they already have. Just print them and ship them. That's
great advertising huge for the new stuff.
Yep.
It's what's desperately been needed, and finally they're doing it, and I'm really happy. That's excited me more than anything else that I've heard and seen from Marvel in like the last 2-3 months. So that was about damn time. Anyway,
fellas, we are winding down. It's at the end of the show.
All right.
Sorry.
The Dollar Tree, all those dollar stores could be the spinner rack for a whole new generation. That gets me real excited, Pele.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's time for some comic book recommendations. We went through all the topics. I hope everyone enjoyed this. Now, Brian, you're obviously, we haven't seen you in a while. I'm glad you're here. Do you have any comic books that you're recommending? Maybe some rags or something else?
No, I don't have anything this week. It's been a very busy week. But if you do, guys, want to support us over at Patreon to see all the Hot-Blooded Foreigner Sailor Rogowski pages, please do. We are about January 1st, we're going to go balls to the wall full-time into comic book creation mode. So this is going to be a very crazy batshit year for us.
Congratulations, brother. I'm very excited for you. So I can't wait to see what you do and actually feature it right here on the channel.
Hey,
oh
Brian.
man, you're gonna love it. You're absolutely gonna love this. My roommate, she's a former Marine, and I held her at MRE point because I have what is this? I have like the jalapeno cheese from the MRE.
Ah, that's pretty good.
I collect those and I use them as coin, if you will. But we're gonna work with her, and she's gonna do some voice acting for us, and it's gonna be amazing.
Hey, question for you, Brian.
Yeah, sure.
Just for some clarification, if we're already patrons, we just keep our Patreon account going, and you just switch over to the new book.
You'll be getting both. You'll be getting both books at the same time.
Okay.
We're gonna. Awesome. Luigi and I are right now working out a work schedule, so it's gonna be something like we'll do one issue of Rags, and then the next 10 pages of Sailor. Throw that in the back of the book, so then Patreon will get maybe a 50-page book, but there's 10 pages of extra content in there in the back. So we're just kind of getting the logistics of this all worked out.
Awesome. Awesome. I didn't want to have to end my existing Patreon, monthly, and then sign up for a new one. Awesome. It's just switching right over. Beautiful.
No, it's the same place. Just stick to the same place, and we'll take care of you like we always do.
Rad.
Awesome. All right, Larry, thank you for joining us today. You got any comic books you're recommending this week?
Yeah, if you don't like artwork and you like reading dictionaries and encyclopedias, The Other History of the DC Universe. That's my recommendation. I'm just kidding.
It's a long read.
If you like comic books, if you like comic book shops, Firepower from Robert Kirkman, Image Comics. This is a guy who succeeded at the highest level in Hollywood, made millions and millions of dollars, and he still is committed to comic books, comic book shops, coming out with new series. This is Kung Fu meets Mr. Mom. I think the 7th issue is coming out this week. You can get a whole story arc in a $9.99 trade. Just a great breath of fresh air, entire new mythos. Fun story. Firepower. Image Comics. Chris Samney, Robert Kirkman. Give it a try.
Doc, you recommend anything this week?
They released a local comic shop day variant of Invincible #1, from forever ago. I picked that up. It was still just as beautiful, and it's got a cool gold foil logo at the top.
Have you
X
read
of Sor-
Invincible, Doc?
Yeah, I've read it. The whole series is absolutely amazing. It's
My
easily it's my
My
favorite. It's the best series, in my opinion, of the 21st century. Best superhero series of the 21st century. And that's after including Planetary, The Authority, and Wildcats version 3.0, which are, in my opinion, the three other best series of the 21st century. But yeah, Invincible is amazing. And everybody that starts reading it goes, how in the hell did I skip this for so long? So then X of Swords Destruction was okay-ish. I recommend it just so that you know where you're going to get if you're going to continue reading X-Men after this. And ASM, I don't remember if it was 53 or 53 LR that came out this week.
LR.
Those numbers.
Okay.
Suck. I hate
It was-
those add-on numbers.
Same here. But at least they're not doing 0.1 anymore. But it was actually pretty good. I like the .LR numbers on ASM so far. They've actually been pretty good to add to the Last Remains story. So they're not just a giant steal your money. I think that was it, though. Check your local comic shop. They might be doing, especially since today's Small Business Saturday, they might be doing some specials or back issue sales or whatever. Go check out your local shop today.
Perfect. All right, Paley, what do you recommend at the shop?
Last God #10. Just keep buying it.
That's the best issue of the series so far. It was amazing.
It is just, I love this.
That's
series
a great
so
series.
much. It is.
Yeah.
It is like the classic fantasy that you love to read in book format is a comic book. It's just so good. It is so damn good. That Usagi Yojimbo, and keep buying the True Believers. The Black Cat one is really nice this week.
She's getting the
that's a
symbiote.
book. Yeah, and buy it. Buy the True Believers. But yeah, Last God #1 with a bullet.
And I cannot echo Last God #10. It was just so good. Yeah, that was so good. But also the plot #7 from Vault Comics. It's the penultimate issue of that series. It's a like a 70s setting horror comic. That was the best issue of the plot so far. It was excellent. I'm gonna have to. It's probably gonna make it into my top 10 comics of the year. One of the what Last God the plot's going to get in there. Also, if you like Rob Liefeld's Snake Eyes Dead Game 3 was pretty good. Other than that, I think that's my recommendations. We got Dion with some recommendations as we go out the door. I just want to say thank you all so very much. Thank you to the panel, Brian, Larry. Looks like his phone probably died. Doc, Pele, and we'll see y'all next week. Salamapo.
Salamapo.
And wash your ass.